welcome back to our series of the Property Practitioners Act. Today I will be focusing on the Fidelity Fund as well as the Fidelity Fund certificate that a property practitioner must obtain. Now, the Fidelity Fund was established under the old Estate Agency Affairs Act, but the new Property Practitioners Act has repealed this act in totality. Therefore, the fund will proceed to exist under the new act as if it was enacted under the new act. It just now has a new name, which is now the Property Practitioner Fund, Fidelity Fund. Okay, so what is the main purpose of this fund? The main purpose of this fund is to reimburse any claimant who suffered a loss due to, first of all, a theft of trust monies that was held by a property practitioner who is in possession of a valid certificate, and secondly also to reimburse for loss caused by a property practitioner who doesn't have a separate trust account or who didn't invest any monies that they received on their trust account. So those are the two reimbursements. Then how do you claim from the fund? It's easy. You have to institute your claim on the prescribed form in the prescribed manner, and your claim must be instituted with the fund within 3 years from date that the circumstances came to light that is the cause of your action. If you miss this 3 years, your claim would have expired and the fund will not pay out. Okay. Now, if your claim is based on theft of a trust money, you first have to institute a criminal charge with your local police station before you will be allowed to institute your claim with the fund. If you haven't done that step, the fund will reject your claim and request that you first institute a criminal charge against the property practitioner. Okay. The fund will then, after you've submitted your claim, do an inquiry and then decide will they allow the claim or will they not allow the claim. It's very important. The Act also requires that the claimant provide their cooperation to the fund. For instance, if the fund asks you for any further supporting documents, to give it. If you don't give your cooperation, the fund will be allowed to hold any monies payable to you back until you have cooperated and only pay it out then. For that time that they are keeping back your money, they are not obliged to invest it and you are not obliged to obtain any interest on that money. So please give your cooperation to the fund. So that's just in short the fund. Let's look at your Fidelity Fund certificate. Now this is only for property practitioners as defined in the Act. Okay, so you have to apply to the authority in the prescribed manner and on the prescribed forms for first of all to be registered with them, and that incurs a fee of 400 Rand. Secondly, you will also have to apply every 3 years for your certificate and you have to pay the prescribed fee. Now the last 3 years since 2020, and the fee for the 3-year cycle from 2020 till now is 2,340 Rand. If you decide to become a property practitioner, say for instance this year, your fee will be 780. Candidate property practitioners also have to pay a fee and they also have to have a valid certificate, and their fee is 380 only for your first 2 years as a candidate. If you don't comply with all the requirements within your first 2 years, you will pay the normal fee that a property practitioner pays. Okay. These fees are increased annually on the 1st of April, so be on the lookout for the Minister's regulations on what the increases are. Then also, if you don't comply with these fees, you can be asked to pay a penalty to the fund of 125 Rand per month or part of a month for every time that you are overdue with your payments. Okay, so the authority will then check your application and see that you comply with these requirements, it's the required form, and also your fees has been paid. The fund will also check that you are not part of the disqualified persons as prescribed by the Act. Just a side note on that, please keep in mind that one of the disqualification factors is if you do not have a valid BEE certificate. How this will be implemented is still not clear, and we are waiting for any guidelines on that. Just keep note of that for now. Okay. Then very important, you may not practice as a property practitioner or candidate property practitioner without a valid certificate. Should you be practicing without a valid certificate, you will be committing an offence and you can be kept liable by either paying a fee or imprisonment if you do not comply. Then keep in mind that your certificate can be withdrawn by the fund if there is anything that they feel valid, or if a court order was obtained that your Fidelity Fund certificate must be withdrawn, that can be done. Your certificate can also lapse. And this is, for example, if you as a practitioner become insolvent or if you passed away. Those are just a few instances where your certificate can lapse. Then also, very important, it is mandatory in terms of the Act that you display your valid certificate. This display must take place within your place of business. It must also be on all your marketing material, and then your agreements, whether it's a lease agreement, whether it's a sale agreement, must have a clause in it that states you are in possession of a valid Fidelity Fund certificate. So that is mandatory. If you don't comply with it, you will be liable for an offence. And then lastly, you are not entitled to any payment if you don't have a valid certificate. And it is quite important to note this. The Act specifically with estate agents says that conveyancers are not allowed to pay your commission if you cannot furnish them with a valid certificate. Also, it must have been valid on the date that the deed of sale was signed. It shouldn't just be valid on the date that the commission is payable. Okay, so that is in a nutshell the Fidelity Fund and the certificate. If you really want to go and read a little bit more, you are more than welcome to go and look at Chapter 7 and 8 of the Act, together with Chapter 4 and 5 of the regulations of the Act. Please stay tuned for our last video where we will look at the sanctions in terms of the Act. Thank you.